Georgia tight end Brock Bowers is an elite prospect, but how elite is he? And why are me and Keith about to disagree? We're going to talk about this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I am a national scout and a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. You know I got to kick this intro to my guy, Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at TheTalentCode. Keep talking to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ with those LSU Bengal Tigers, man. Here to bring you championship level content surrounding the NFL draft, man. This is the number one source to go to for the best NFL draft content. I want to say shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Listen, man, if you haven't hit the like button, go ahead and hit the like button. Make sure you comment after each segment. If you're not subscribed to the best NFL draft content, go ahead and subscribe to this channel, DP. The reason why I told him to hit the like button is because we have an action-packed show. We are talking about Brock Bowers and what type of prospect, right? Who thinks he's elite? Who thinks he's not? Who thinks he's not? We're on two different sides of this coin, so this is going to be a fun conversation. Then we're bringing up our sleeper prospects, which guys or people not talking about enough, but you can expect them to go high on draft day, and then perfect fits, right? We pick the player, we pick the team, and we say this is a mutually beneficial situation for both sides. But DP, before we get that started, man, why don't you hit him with our title sponsor?
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Elite prospect, the man, the myth, the legend, Keith, Brock Bowers is an elite prospect, but how elite is this young man, right? Some people say he's the best tight end prospect in the last decade. I thoroughly disagree with that statement, but I do think he's one of the best that we've seen. When you look at a guy that's 6'3", 6'4", 225, 230, and has put up the numbers that he's put up at Georgia. And even this year, he battled an injury, but he still came away with a nice, successful season. 56 receptions, 714 yards, 7 total touchdowns between receiving and rushing, because he's a guy that takes jet sweeps and handoffs. They give him screens. They give him a lot of manufactured touches and everything. And then his A trait, Keith, and I'm pretty sure you will agree with me here, his best trait is his run after catch ability. What he does after he gets the ball in his hands is where he's at his best. But there's some things for his game that bother me in terms of translating to the league, in terms of how is he be used. I got lit up, Keith, on Twitter, probably right before the new year or right around the new year, because I put out a tweet.
Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year, right? Georgia fans brought it in nice and well for me. I deleted the tweet because I didn't want anybody on the Georgia staff to think I was disrespecting what they did. I said I didn't like him in that offense. And the reason why is because just projecting him to the league, it made my projection a little tough, because I'm like, all right, a lot of manufactured touches, a lot of space play, a lot of easy stuff. And I'm like, to what, at credit to them, they got him in the best position available, right? But my thing is, like, projecting to the league is, I can't imagine someone using him exactly that way. We see this happen year after year, Keith, that the NFL, we see a guy that's used perfectly in one specific way. The NFL gets him, and you get the coaching staff saying, we're going to use him the way we want to use you. And it's not to the best benefit of the player. So that's where I kind of drew back with his game. It's just that there was a lot of easy stuff for him to really get activated and be the dominant force that he is. I don't know if it'll be an easy jump start like that every single play like it was at Georgia when he gets to the league.
Yeah, no, it won't be. But in my opinion, Brock Bowers did enough on film to show me, right? And like I said, I go to the Auburn film and I watched him catch the ball. I watched him run the football. I watched him block. And I think he's just simply one of the more well-rounded prospects that we've seen in a very long time. And, you can look at, I guess, even this past draft class, right, with just Sam Laporta and Dalton Kincaid. I would ask you, DP, where do you have those guys ranked if you just throw those two names out there? Do you think he's a better prospect than those players because, the production that those two guys just had?
Man, I think he's a definitely more well-rounded prospect than Dalton Kincaid. So I got him over Dalton by far, right? I would say with Sam, I think he's a better athlete than Sam. So like the explosiveness and dynamic ability in open field, I feel like Sam was just a much better player versus man-to-man coverage and contact, right? And I got some numbers even back up that, because this is another problem I have. I was like, all right, he doesn't face man-to-man that much. And I was like, and when he does, he's not overly successful. So on the season, he played with 9 games because, again, he battled some injuries, right? He ran 53 routes versus man-to-man coverage. He was targeted 11 times, right? He caught 5 of them, but he had like 98 yards, right? You know what I mean? So he still could create some explosive plays, but he rarely ever sees man-to-man. And then when guys get up on the line, he doesn't have a release pass because he rarely sees it. Now there's something that can grow. There's something that could be like developed. I'm not going to kill him for that, but it's like, all right, when we get to the league, we know what does the NFL defensive coordinators want to do? Take away what you do best. So that means running into free grass. Yeah, then we're gonna try to take that away from you, big fella. Well, I don't know if I don't know if I'll call him big fella because he's only 6'3", 230. But we're gonna try to take that away from you. And
that was a slight shot right there. That was a slight shot with the only 6'3".
I don't feel like it was a shot, Keith. I was just saying, I don't call him big fella. He's not 6'6", but I think that him and Laporta are similar to me in terms of just players, where I look at, just like I said, he's going to be above Laporta because that athletic upside is just in Brock Bowers' favor. Where like Kincaid, we know Kincaid doesn't block that much. Like, you know what I mean? So you put Kincaid as a movement guy in the slot, stuff like that. But Keith, the reason why we disagree is going to our grade. So for those who don't know, over the Draft Network, me and Keith are also colleagues, if you haven't paid attention to the podcast as of the last year. So when we have our grades, first round, we got 2, just kind of give you a little bit of context. We have 2 specific grades for first round. You got Pro Bowl caliber, and you got the rare All Pro. Keith graded Brock Bowers as a rare guy. I graded him as a Pro Bowl guy. And I was like, we had this conversation on our scouting call. I said, I don't see rare. I was like, because when I think about rare, it is the physical aspect of it, right? The being 6'6", 240, still running 4.4, a la Kyle Pitts. And I know some people are like, well, Brock's a better blocker. And I would say this, Brock is he's a little bit more effective. He just gives maximum effort. Now, will he get shed and displaced? Yes. You know what I mean? That happens at times, but he is a good blocker in the specific spots. Where I look at, and this is where because when you say rare, I'm thinking back to Kyle Pitts' rookie year, right? Calvin Ridley played 5 games. You got Russell Gage, Cordell Patterson, Olamide Zaccheaus, Mike Davis, Tajay Sharp. Kyle Pitts was targeted 110 times, 68 receptions, over 1,000 yards. For some reason, they couldn't get him enough touchdowns. He only had 1 that season. But just being the leading receiver for a team who also didn't even have a 1,000-yard rusher. And I look at Brock, and I'm like, all right, could Brock go to a terrible situation like that and be the funnel of a passing game when defenses are putting their best defenders on them? I watched the Miami Dolphins put Xavier Howard, one of the best cornerbacks in the league at that time, on Kyle Pitts to try and stop them on the game-winning drive, and Kyle cooked them. You know what I mean? You watched them against Derek Stingley, and he beat Derek Stingley a couple of times when y'all faced each other.
He won the matchup. I'm not going to say beat DP. You know what I'm saying? That's the bias right there. That's the LSU bias. But nah, man. So listen, I think all of those are great, I guess, points to make, right? And shoot, we about to have to transition into another segment. We're gonna have to bring this conversation back because I think this is probably a whole podcast right here. But I think this is that when you talked about the rare All Pro versus the Pro Bowl caliber, right? And it's the elite versus the non-elite. It could be in context of the conversation of the athlete, right? You may feel like Kyle Pitts is a rare athlete. I think Brock Bowers is a rare football player, and that may be where we start to separate and have different conversations. But DP, I want to dive deeper into this, and we're gonna bring this conversation back to the everydayers, because this is something where everybody thinks that we agree, and we mostly see we disagree on this, right? And I want to be able to get my points across too. So we definitely gonna bring this conversation. But man, DP, we about to transition. Sleeper prospects, DP. What are the players that nobody's talking about that have a chance to go in the top 100? Your team could be drafting them at pick 55, pick 60, right? That no one's talking about because they don't necessarily have the media hype. We're going to talk about that and more coming up next.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What's the first thing you do if you had an extra hour in your day? Go for a run, take a nap, read a book, call someone that you love and that you're friends with, and just have a nice long talk. We always discuss what it would be like to have one more hour, just more time. More time for what? Right? What do you need more time for, guys? If time was unlimited, how would you use it? You don't know, do you? I know how you can help. Therapy can help you find what matters most to you so you can do more of it. And that's very simple. To be the best version of yourself, you need to be able to bounce ideas, thoughts, ideologies, all those things off of someone that's objective and unbiased on your life. That's what therapy gives you. And if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. All right. It's entirely online and designed to be flexible, convenient, and suited to your schedule. Learn to make time for what makes you happy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Man, kid, it feels like I haven't said this in a while, but guys, it's time to wake up, man. It's time to wake up on some of these prospects. And Keith, I've talked about him on the pod before. Jalen McMillan, the other wide receiver. They had a trio at Washington. I love this dude's game, man.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I've watched some of Jalen McMillan, and I think it's interesting how those things play out, right? With media and like who gets the likability part, because I think Jalen McMillan is just as talented, if not more talented. And I don't even mean to cut your sleeper part off, but I was just thinking about that, right? That Jalen Polk is by far the more popular name, right? Like everybody knows Jalen Polk, but then Jalen McMillan is kind of the guy that, for whatever reason, he fell into the hole of nobody talks about him. So I'm gonna let you continue to talk about what type of player he is. But I thought that was interesting.
Because that's exactly where I was kind of going with that, Keith, is that no one talk, like it's the tale of two Jalen's. They talk about Jalen Polk. They don't discuss Jalen McMillan like that. And I tweeted about him, on yesterday, man, route running, open field speed, body type, like he has an NFL frame, came in at like 6'1", 197, 200 pounds, jumped like 36, 37, ran a 4.47 at the combine. But you see tempo, patience, route running, but they use him in such a variety of ways too. Motions, orbit stuff. Bro, they literally put him in the backfield multiple times in 2023. He ran Wildcat. And they threw a screen to him, which turned into a double pass on it was a short first down. They didn't need, it was like a 10, like 3rd and 10 or something like that. And they threw it to him as like a smoke screen, and he threw it to the tight end on like a corner route to get the first down. So he does so many different things. I think he's probably going to be. And let me preface this. I'm not saying he's Justin Jefferson, but I remember when Justin Jefferson was coming out because of how y'all used him at LSU. I'm not saying Justin Jefferson. People thought Justin Jefferson was simply a slot receiver.
Guy. They thought he was a slot guy that ran like a 4.55 or something like that. Yep, yeah, I remember.
Was like, oh yeah, he's a slot guy. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I think he can play on the outside. Like, you don't move the way you can move and not be able to play outside. I've seen some reps of Jalen McMillan at the Z where I feel, and against kind of, he doesn't face a lot of tight coverage, but I saw enough to say, you know what? He could play the Z spot in some instances as well, and not just be a slot only guy. But I think, and in my second round mock, which has been blown up by the NFL free agency, I put Jalen McMillan somewhere towards the top of the second round. Keith, I think I put him over Jalen Polk. I put him in Tennessee to the Tennessee Titans for Will Levis. I just think this is a young man that's definitely talented, but it's so many other big names. And I think the injury also hurt him, because I think he only played 6 or 7 games or whatnot because he was hurt. I just think that this is a guy that we're going to be talking about as a rookie and be like, man, how did he fall to this pick when he was actually wide receiver 2. You know what I mean? Behind Rome Odunze.
Yeah, no, it's the Jaden Reed type conversation, right? Where some of these really talented players, and we'll see what happens on draft day. And we know that some NFL teams get it right, and then some of them get it flat out wrong, right? You talk about Jaden Reed, and we go to this team all the time, but it's because they made some epic mess ups. The Carolina Panthers, right? Jaden Reed is still there for you to grab, and you grab Jonathan Mingo, right? I believe that's how the draft played out.
Pink Dale was there.
Yeah, it's those type of mistakes, man. But I agree with you, and I haven't even dove all the way into the details, but I just know, like, on surface level, what I watched with McMillan, I liked him a lot. But DP, I'm gonna go with this guy. I won't even call. I'm gonna say this. He's a draft stock up / sleeper for me that I'm going to pound the table, and I believe he's an out of sight, out of mind guy, and that is Missouri cornerback Ennis Rakestraw. Finally got eyes on him in depth. I like this guy, DP. You know me. I cut the cornerback film on. I'm going to watch you from the waist down. I'm going to watch the hips. I'm going to watch your feet. I'm going to watch how fluid you are. But then those people who love cornerbacks that are more than willing and they're effective tacklers, this is a guy that shows well against that. And I'll even go far as to say this because I went in depth with the LSU game, right, to watch him. Good on good competition, right? The Brian Thomas, the Malik Neighbors. Is there some development there from him, press man? Yes, but I think that's also because Missouri played a lot of off coverage too. And I don't even think that's fully his game. I think he's a get in your face type of guy, press man all day long. And you can see in his start-stop ability, his ability to accelerate and decelerate, that he has the natural tools to get the job done. So I don't know if this guy's going to fall to the second round because of, like I said, the out of sight, out of mind. Their pro day is coming up fairly soon, I believe. If it's not, is it? It's coming up fairly soon. I know that for sure. And I'll be interested to see, just him work out and everything. But I really like this guy. And when I'm saying really like, I'm putting him in the same bucket, DP, of some of these guys. Like I said, I think Kool-Aid McKinstry is probably the most consistent press man corner. Quinion Mitchell had the best
draft season.
Yeah, best draft season. That's what I was trying to pre-draft, right? He had the best draft season. And then Terrion Arnold has probably the upside, right, to be a lockdown. And I think Ennis should be thrown into that conversation of the potential to be a lockdown corner because he has all the physical tools. I liked a lot of what I've seen, talking about scrappy player. And, you catch yourself sometimes because I was looking at it and I'm like, man, I see some Darius Slay, right? But then I was like, maybe because he's wearing number 2. So I'm going to hold off on the Darius Slay conversation, right? Just because then I was like, maybe that's because he's wearing number 2. And you know how easy it is just to tie certain numbers in certain situations together. But I really like him as a football player.
Keith, I can't wait to really dive deep into his film for cross checks over the draft network. But for what I've seen from him, I agree with you. This is a dude that can make plays. Keith, I'm gonna go to, man, I'm tied between two guys, right? But I'm gonna go to running backs first. Tyrone Tracy Jr., former receiver, converted to running back from Purdue. 5'11", 210 at the combine, 4.48, 40 inch vert, 10.4 broad, 6.81, 3-cone. But watching this tape, man, like this dude can play. Like, you know what I mean? Open field speed. For a guy that transitioned to running back, I think his vision is good. I like the contact balance for what I've seen. I got to do the full deep dive to give him a grade and everything. But I don't know if you remember this name. Was it Ty? It's a Ty Montgomery that was a receiver in college and
from
once he got to the
Stanford?
league. Yes, and then he transitioned to running back. He kind of reminds me of that, but I think that he now, because he's playing running back full time in college to close out his career in college, I think he can have a quicker jump start. And I feel like this is one of those guys, Keith, that he may. I'm not saying he's going to be a top 100 pick. I think he's going to probably be a day 3 guy. But for teams that say, you know what, we can wait on the running back, and a team that does wait on them in a situation where I'm gonna throw a team out. We talked about them on yesterday's pod, and after we recorded, they went and traded for Joe Mixon, the Houston Texans, right? Like, you still, even though you got Joe Mixon, you still got to find the answer, because I don't know what happened to Dameon Pierce, but it's clearly not there anymore, right? For whatever reason. So
yeah, it's crazy how fast that just went down. It went downhill. Yeah. Yeah, it
And
went from like
and it was like
one of the best NFL stories to just nothing there at all. Like I've never
nothing.
seen it before. I've never seen it before. It's amazing.
No, God, especially when like no injuries involved or nothing. It's just like you fell out of grace, and it's like a new coaching style. But you know what? Maybe it just was. It could be a schematic fit going to that kind of wide zone type stuff that Shanahan and McVadam run. That may not be this. If I remember correctly, I think he's more of a gap scheme guy. So I think that might have been the thing there, Keith. I think Tyrone Tracy day 3 could be a nice guy to put behind Joe Mixon. And then the last guy I'll mention, Keith, defensively, Gabriel Murphy, edge rusher from UCLA, the other guy. We all talk about Latu Latu, but dude, I'm so impressed by this guy, right? Like this, Keith, I watched him. He came into the combine at like 6'2", 247, but they had him listed like 260 during the season. He played 5 tech. He came down into some 1 tech. Like he played up ahead of guards in run downs, and he held his own. You know what I mean? Quick. He's got elusiveness to be able to slip blocks, quick hands, explosive athlete. When we talk about edge rushers, his name doesn't get mentioned enough. And I think this is a dude that somebody's gonna get a steal whenever they draft him.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch him. Also, the last guy I want to mention, DP, and we're gonna have. I want to go in depth with Will Shipley.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have a conversation about him just because of the state of the NFL right now and what he does well, what he doesn't do well. But I want to say Will Shipley as a sleeper prospect because you think about the Austin Ecklers and the impact that they were able to have through the passing game and then being running backs and where NFL is right now. So I think it'd be an interesting conversation to have, but I definitely wanted to throw him in as a sleeper prospect. But DP, let's keep this thing going and flowing, man. You know what's up next? Perfect fit segment, man. Well, we pick the player, we pick the team. We say that it's mutually beneficial for you guys to be together at the end of the day so both can benefit from this situation. So coming up next, man, we're going to pick some players with some NFL teams that need to happen in the 2024 NFL draft.
You shouldn't have to worry when you're going to buy tickets for your next big event. But if you wait till the last minute, you will, because you're attempting to compete with other buyers and you're trying to find the best value and the best bargain for prices, right? Guys, let me introduce you to Game Time. They are the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all your sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. What other things do they offer, DB? Talk to us. Well, let me talk to you, family. Last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. Their tickets are easy to find and buy. And this is my favorite part. They show the views from all the seats in the venue, so before you purchase your ticket, you know what vantage point you will have. Guys, ladies, gentlemen, families, if you want to go to the round of 64 of the NCAA men's basketball tournament in the Charlotte area at the Spectrum Center, you can get tickets on the Game Time app right now for as cheap as $53 per ticket. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. One of my favorite segments, Perfect Fits. But before that, guys, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. We want to give you your flowers. But yes, Perfect Fits. And Keith, man, like there were so many guys that I thought about when it came on the perfect fit. But a guy that I feel like he helped himself at the combine, Tez Walker, wide receiver out of North Carolina, explosive testing, right? And I think about perfect fits for him. And I say the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the reason why I put him in Pittsburgh, you got a number one in George Pickens, right? They got 2 tight ends. You know, I want to see them activate Darnell Washington a little bit more. But Pat Fry, he's healthy, is probably one of the more underrated actual tight ends in the league. This dude can ball. He can play. Getting a deep ball passer like Russell Wilson, who we know can chuck it down the field and throws one of the best deep balls in the game when given time. Losing Deontay Johnson. Now, he doesn't do what Deontay Johnson does. Deontay Johnson was that route runner, stuff like that. But that explosiveness that will kind of complement George Pickens' just all-around game. That possession receiver, that high-volume target, the guy that's going to pull numbers, right? Change the math. I think that would be a perfect fit for me because also Pittsburgh and Arthur Smith is going to run the ball with Jalen Warren and Najee Harris. And you think about getting that single high, I think Tez Walker and his explosiveness, his deep route running ability and deep play making ability would fit so well with this offense and what they're transitioning to be. Because no matter what happens, Kenny Pickett is not. I don't think Kenny Pickett is going to be the starter. I think Russell Wilson beats him out, and I think it's going to be fairly easy if they keep it 100 with themselves. So, because you want to be able to attack every inch of the field and every blade of grass. And I think Tez to Pittsburgh. I think with Russell Wilson, I think he's motivated to prove that it wasn't me. It was Sean Payton. It was Nathaniel Hackett. It was a situation I was in.
Well, DP, this is the problem and I think that's the context that's being taken out of context. I think when Russell Wilson was benched, right, it wasn't even like that had to be
he
personal.
was not playing bad.
Because he finished the season and he didn't play the last 2 games and he had 26 touchdowns and I think 8 interceptions, right? With 2 games left. So if you go with the 2-to-1 ratio over 2 games, he was going to finish with 30 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. That's a Pro Bowl quarterback, right? That's a Pro Bowl season. So that whatever that situation was, it had to be something personal, right? Like it wasn't play. So I agree with you. Now, the context of Tez Walker, and you know I'm at with Tez Walker as far as the evaluation. I think he's most fifth round guy. But I want to ask this: when you're talking about this receiver core, as you're talking about perfect fits, right? And we have questions, we're gonna talk about it. Deontay Johnson being gone, George Pickens being a style of wide receiver that he is. My question would be, DP, is do they have a guy that can do it all? Do you feel like George Pickens is that guy that can? Or is he, because I like what he does, but a lot of his wins, I feel like, come via the same way. Yeah. And I would just be a little worried. While I think they need an explosive playmaker, right? And maybe talking about after they get somebody else, right? That I even like him pairing with Russell Wilson throwing the deep ball. I just look at it, if I'm looking at it from, I think it's a good situation for Tez. My question would be, would it be a great situation for Pittsburgh? Because do they need to get another wide receiver to add to this wide receiver core?
Yeah, no, I think if you feel like you can get the college version of Calvin Austin, right? If you feel like you can get that back,
that's
like,
true.
You know what I mean? I think that he can give you some of what you lost with Deontay, that route running, quick twitch, in and out of breaks type guy. We saw him do that, in college. Like, he was good at that. And we saw him do it at the Senior Bowl, right? 2 years ago. So has it been 2 years already? I think so. Yeah. So it's been 2 years. So I think if you feel comfortable in that, you say, okay, cool. But if you don't feel comfortable in that, then you might want to get a Hunter Renfrow, right? Who just got released by the Raiders. You pick up Hunter Renfrow to be that route runner, that quick winning option for Russ. You know what I mean? Because he is used to having the Tyler Lockett's, the Doug Baldwins, those type of guys when he was in Seattle. And when they called Jerry Jeudy's number, he was kind of that guy for Denver, especially in 2022 when Cortland Sutton wasn't playing his best. So I think that's again, where you're going to be able to get Tez, I think, is that 3rd, 4th round where it is kind of best situation than kind of who was it? Daniel Jeremiah before the Senior Bowl was like 1st round. And I was like, this was the worst timing for that mock draft to drop because Tez went in there and did not perform at his best. And people were looking around like, what is going on? So I think Tez Walker, with what it looks like they're building in Pittsburgh offensively, I really love that fit because he will give them exactly what they need. And he gets with a quarterback that can get him the football down the field.
Yeah, no, and I agree with it from that perspective. All right, DP, my guy, perfect fits, man. I have one guy. I have 2 teams. One guy, 2 teams, DP. That is Xavier Worthy, man, Mr. Record-breaking 40-yard dash himself.
Man in the world right now.
Yes, fastest man in the world right now. I'm going to go with him to the Atlanta Falcons or him to the Tennessee Titans. I say the Atlanta Falcons for this reason. Now, they still have their 2nd round pick. They signed Kirk Cousins, right? Kirk Cousins, if he comes back healthy, Kirk Cousins is the type of quarterback where he Hall of Fame may be out of the question for him, right? And ever being a top 5 quarterback, right? But if you ask wide receivers, they appreciate playing with Kirk Cousins because there hasn't been one wide receiver that he plays with that he doesn't feed, right? And we talking about all the way back to Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs, right? He knows how to get wide receivers the ball. Now, from a team perspective, right, I look at it and say, hey, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, these are guys that I feel like vertically they're going to win because they're bigger, right? And they're going to play above the rim. But they also can win short to intermediate. They can dominate in that fast hit, middle of the field type stuff. I think you add Xavier Worthy for the type of balance, right? Now you're talking about something scary. So if I roll out there and I'm Atlanta Falcons, I have Kirk Cousins at quarterback, I have Bijan Robinson with Tyler Algier at running back, and then I still have Drake London and Kyle Pitts, right? And I believe they just signed Darnell Mooney also. Darnell Mooney. So I think that's a scary situation. Now, the Tennessee Titans, why should they go after Xavier Worthy? One of the biggest arm quarterbacks, right? A guy that wants to come off a play action and let it rip. D-Hop is there. Treylon Burks, he's shown who he is as far as I don't think he's that reliable vertical separator neither, right? He's a jump ball, go get it. But you add Xavier Worthy to this situation, not just for the vertical plays, but for the easy plays behind the line of scrimmage. Like the one play, DP, where we both knew that Xavier Worthy was a different type of fast when he had that quick screen, tunnel screen against Oklahoma State, and he ran away from people that were 10 yards in front of him. I've never seen that before. I was like, you know what? This guy is different fast, right? That's why I picked him to run the fastest for it. Like not a combine history, but I thought he was gonna be the guy. What'd you say?
I'm saying let's not talk about that.
It was a competition and I won, DP. That's all that happened. It was a competition and I won, man. But listen, I like those two situations for Xavier Worthy, and I like them for both teams.
No, Keith, and I love it for both teams, right? Because again, like you said, he meshes and pairs so well with what Atlanta has, right? The trees, and then, don't get me wrong, Darnell Mooney will bring that deep ball too. But I know some people, I think the Warren Sharp was like, yeah, he had a lot of they said he had a lot of inaccurate passes, kind of trying to put the blame on Fields. But I would say I looked at the tape and I just didn't see a reliable receiver either, like with route running and where where you're supposed to be and different. I didn't see a lot of that, but he can do some things. But putting Xavier Worthy in that offense, where that's that Sean McVay type offense as well, with Zach Robinson coming over, 100%. And you mentioned Kirk Cousins, and I'm like, man, no, he's not in the Hall of Fame yet, Keith, because all it takes is that one playoff run. You know what I mean? You get to the Super Bowl, and then like all the numbers he put up, all the money he's made. Is going to be a case for it. But I love it to also Tennessee, because talking to people in Tennessee who cover the team, they said, man, Will Levis wants the deep ball. They see it every week. His eyes are paying deep before it comes down low, right? And he'll wait for the deep. And I think putting a guy like Xavier Worthy with what they have, Chigo Okonkwo, Tajay Spears, Tony Pollard, that gives him a lot of athletic weapons to where just say, go make the right throw, put it on, make it accurate. Man, that would be explosive for that big arm with Xavier Worthy. And he's not gonna, as much as teams gonna want to double team him, Keith. How can you with D-Hop on the other side?
Yep. And Treylon Burks is going to garner attention too. So I think that it balances some things out for the Tennessee Titans for sure. And like I said, if you're just trying to go all in, if you're the Atlanta Falcons, definitely go with that pick. But DP, man, that wraps up another episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. Man, I want to say shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. If you haven't hit that like button, go ahead, hit that like button. If you haven't commented, drop your comments, man. We've got through the show. Let us know what you agree with, what you disagree with. Go ahead and tell DP he is wrong about Brock Bowers. Go ahead and tell him that in the comments, man. And listen, if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to the best NFL draft content that they have out there. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there, my co-host, man, my guy I talk to every single day, man, is Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we always like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers, man. Listen, guys, I'm headed to Clemson Tigers Pro Day, so I'll be able to see Nate Wiggins, Ruka Roro, Tyler Davis, and all the other prospects that they have in Clemson on tomorrow. So stay tuned for that update. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.